So hello and welcome to another video on my channel. Today I am showing you how I created this jelly print. It's done by numerous layers on the plate as opposed to layers on the print. So I started off with the top layer and then built the layers up on the plate, and then I pulled the print off all in one go. So as you can see, I've now popped it on into a book, and I absolutely love this print. I'm so proud of it. I think it looks beautiful. I also created a couple of extra collage papers as part of the session as well, so you'll see how I created those too. And so let's get going, or as I like to create a new phrase every time, hit it, baby. So I started off with this beautiful sunflower stencil. Mostly clear. I'm going to use this yellow over the top as my top layer on the print. I wanted to use this yellow because it's so bright and sunshiny, and of course it's the colour of sunflowers and they make me so happy. So I'm using the brayer to get that yellow into all of the spaces in the stencil, using a relatively decent pressure to get that paint inside all of the little nooks and crannies. Get in a good indentation of those flower patterns. And then rubbing off the excess paint on the paper off to the side. And now I will wait for it to dry. So there's a little bit of time between there to let it dry. When you're layering on your plate, you have to make sure that each of those layers are fully dry before you put the next layer on. Otherwise, you're going to mess up your layers. You've got to smudge all of those beautiful designs. So you've got to make sure they're 100% dry. That can take a bit of time. So go off and do something else in between. Okay, so I am mixing a new colour on my mixed gel plate on the side there. Trying to get a good orange to coordinate nicely with the yellow. Wiping off the excess onto my paper off to the side. I'm using a bit of cardboard to have a nice little line design on my plate. And pressing it on in sort of random bits and pieces. Yeah, I'm using another smaller piece because it was a little easier than the larger bit. When I look like I'm doing it random, I'm not doing it as random as it looks. I'm kind of judging where the best spots are for the design. Areas that are needing a little bit more design, gaps in the pattern, where it's going to be required to have a little bit more pattern to sort of even out the design. So the next layer is a bubble wrap layer. So we're again contrasting with both colour and design. I've got a bit of red, so we're going from yellow to orange to red. We're still going with a similar colour palette. It's all nice and warm colours, but we're again contrasting with the design. We've gone the flowers, we've gone the stripes, and now we're going with circles with the bubble wrap. Make sure it is fully dry before you use your pickup layer. Okay, so I have waited for that to dry before I'm doing the next one. Again, who wants to wait? Watch paint dry. It's boring. So I'm mixing the red that was left over on the palette with some white to make a bit of a pink. And again, we're sticking with a similar colour palette with the red mixing with the white to go for a pink. Again, the orange, the red, the pink, all similar warm colours so that they coordinate really nicely together. Again, rub off that paint on the rub-off paper on the side. Don't ever waste those rub-off papers because they can be really nice collage papers too. So I'm doing a really nice thin layer for the pickup layer, making sure it's nice and even, not too thick, otherwise all you'll do is pick up that the pickup layer and not any of the underneath layers. Now you do this pickup layer, you make sure you pick it up wet so that it adheres to the paint and it adheres to the paper that you're lifting off. Otherwise it's not going to pick up any of that. Now when you're picking up multiple layers from your plate, you have to leave it there for a few minutes. If you pick it up straight away, it's not going to pick up any of your underneath layers, so you have to leave it to dry just a little bit. So while I was waiting for that to dry, I thought I'd clean off my mix layer. So I pulled off a couple of layers of the very, very wet paint and I pulled those straight off. So that's why it didn't pick up any of the underneath layers, it just picked off the top wet layers. So that's a good example of why you have to leave that paper on there for a while to adhere all of those underneath layers to the paper. So again, I pulled off another layer off that thing, and now I'm putting on some strips for some strip collage papers. So I always do this with my mixed layers because you always get some really, really, really cool grungy effects on your mix plate. And it's a great way to clean your plate off, a great way to get some really unusual collage papers that you wouldn't necessarily get ones that you've planned, because you just, you know, it's really random and they just come up beautiful. So good rub, and we'll see what comes up. It's picked up all the beautiful colours underneath and it rips a little bit sometimes, but that's okay. I mean, look how cool that looks. You just don't get that if you plan it. That's so cool. And it's picked up the blue from the original, what was on there before I started all this. All the lovely pinks and oranges and purple and yellows and all the it's just such a great combination of colours. They're so cool. And all those leftovers there. All right, let's have a look and see how the main event came out. Awesome, that worked perfectly. All right, so we've got our flower top layer, then we have our stripy second layer. Underneath that is the bubble wrap layer, and then we have our pink pull-up layer underneath. That worked perfectly. Exactly how I wanted it to go. So thanks so much for joining me for this little gel print session. I absolutely love how these came out. So make sure you press subscribe so you don't miss my next video, and we'll see you all again soon.